Go.
Okay, so the first probe we're going to talk about is called biological evolution, and it says 4 friends were discussing the meaning of the term biological evolution. This is what they said. Mario said, "I think it is another term for natural selection." Sally said, "I think it mainly explains how life started." Cameron said, "I think it mainly explains how life changed after it started." And Paz said, "I think it includes both how life started and how it changed after it started." Who do you most agree with? Explain what you think biological evolution is.
So which one do you guys agree most with?
Paz, the last one.
That's what I was thinking. How it started and how it changed after. Why do you think
Yeah. Because I know that evolution is like change over time, but I think it also means how it started. So that's why I said that.
Any other guesses that's not Paz, or are you going to explain differently why you think it would be Paz?
Biological evolution.
I think it's Paz.
Pretty much retweet what you said. Okay, so the actual answer is Cameron. I think it mainly explains how life changed after it started. And so we're going to talk about biological evolution. And do you guys know what biological evolution is? Does anybody have an idea of what that definition would be?
Different variables that all tie together.
Well, bio is life, and evolution is change.
Okay.
So change of life.
It's a mechanism that drives evolutionary change in organisms, okay? And so you can explain why that answer is correct.
It's correct because natural selection is so it's biological evolution is the whole thing, and then I guess have we talked about the term biological selection? Okay. Well, does anyone know what natural selection is?
It's like survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
So it's like basically the passing on of traits that benefit one organism. And so that fits in with this because it's like biological evolution is the whole thing, and then natural selection fits under it. You know, like it's part of biological evolution, basically.
Okay, so part of biological evolution, one of the characteristics is that it explains how living things share common ancestors. And that's a big part that these other answers are missing, and we're going to talk about the incorrect answers. So just keep that in your mind about how his answer is the only one that explains only how living things share common ancestors and change over time. Okay, so the first answer was Mario, and he said, "I think it's another term for natural selection." And like she just said, natural selection is organisms becoming better adapted to their environment, and in turn they survive longer and are able to reproduce better. And so that's why people think survival of the fittest, because the organisms that are fit to survive longer are going to be seen more frequently. So what do you guys think the difference is between natural selection and biological evolution? And I know she just kind of explained it a little bit, but what do you guys, can you tell me in your own words the difference in natural selection and biological evolution?
Somewhat right.
Natural selection is like the traits that have been passed down because they benefited the organism in the environment, but like biological evolution is like specifically changing to fit the environment, right? I don't know. I think I just said the same thing.
Okay, so mainly what's going on is biological evolution is a big blanket on top of all of these things all of these processes that occur that help animals evolve in their habitats. Okay, so natural selection is under this big blanket of biological evolution. It's a way that organisms evolve.
So biological evolution is the way that organisms evolve.
Right.
And natural selection is how they
It's underneath it. It's part of biological evolution.
Another way to think about it is biological evolution is the big picture, and then natural selection is a category under the big picture.
Yeah, it's exactly like
Is that what?
Yeah. Okay, so we have a second probe about It's called Where Have All the Prize Bucks Gone? And so you can introduce that one and discuss that one a little bit.
That you think would be interesting.
I'm gonna look at
So what do you think?
Where have all the prize bucks gone? Is this probe.
Yeah.
And it says a recent issue of Hunting and Fishing magazine reported that populations of male deer bucks reaching sexual maturity have smaller antlers than they did in the past. Which statement best explains the decreased antler size of the buck population? A. The bucks grow their antlers slowly and reproduce as quickly as they can. B. More mutations occur to help the deer population. C. Bucks that reproduce with smaller antlers are less desirable for hunters. Indicate which choice best describes your thinking and provide an explanation for your choice. Look at it.
Yeah, they have like, it's called like a tail.
Which one
And some
do you think it is and why?
like they're, I don't know how it works.
I don't really know, but like off the top of my head, like first hearing that, I thought maybe C, because there'd be more bucks with smaller antlers, and then like their traits would be passed down to more, like, you know what I mean? Like more babies, and the babies that have smaller antlers. I don't know.
I mean, I guess
kinda
I can
think they all
see
could
what you're
work.
talking about.
I don't know. That was just the first one.
Because, I mean, if they keep reproducing bucks with smaller antlers and they're less desirable to hunters, then they won't be hunted and then they won't be reproducing. So I guess that's something that just changed over time because that's how they're adapting.
Okay, using your knowledge about what natural selection is, you guys still think it's C? Can you tell me how natural selection kind of backs up that answer, supports that answer a little bit?
Yeah. So like a husky may look like a
Well, the bucks with the big antlers have been killed off by the hunters, so there's none to reproduce more with big antlers. So that's why all the small antlers. Natural selection.
And does smaller antlers have anything to do like with the hunters wanting to kill these deer? Does that affect it at all?
Well, they want the big antlers, so they would probably avoid the small antlers to continue looking for the big ones.
how origin of life is in evolution.
Do you think that the long antlered deer would end up dying off completely?
If they're hunted enough,
The origin of life.
because then they can't reproduce, right?
That could happen.
Well, do you think that it would occur at a fast rate or at a slow rate?
I would say slow, just because deer reproduce so fast. At least I think they do, because I feel like I see so many all the
So
time.
you think instead of taking about a year, it would take like 15 years?
Yeah.
You're right. The adaptations occur at a slow rate and over time.
I have this question. It's kind of like the same thing you just answered, but I'll go ahead and ask it just to reiterate. Do you think bucks with the big antlers would not be as rare if there weren't hunters? Do you think that there would be a lot more of them?
Yeah, definitely.
And then basically another question that's pretty similar to what I just asked is, do you think the deer's antlers would change over its lifetime? Why or why not? So you think a deer that was born with big antlers is going to change and have small antlers?
No.
Do you think a deer that has small antlers is going to change and have big antlers?
No.
No. And why is that?
Because, it's their genes, like,
With big antlers, and we're going to have big antlers.
yeah. You can't just decide you want long legs one day and it just happens.
But I could have a kid with long legs, right?
Yes.
Other deer.
And then they would have a little bit smaller
There you
antlers.
go. Alright, so we're going to go back to our original probe and continue talking about incorrect answers. You want to talk about Sally's answer?
Okay, Sally's answer was, I think it mainly explains how life started. So, why do you guys think that that's wrong? And it's talking about biological evolution, like what because, yeah. Like, that's what she thinks biological evolution is. So
I mean, I think,
Because
well, biological evolution, you already said it talks about how things have changed over time, so it wouldn't be how it started. It's talking about.
You just don't think it would include that?
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I agree. Retweet.
So
Favorite
pretty
DM.
much the only answer to that is that it's not the same thing. So the origin of life is just not associated with biological evolution. Biological evolution mainly focuses on how organisms have changed over time, and the creation of life is something completely different. It's just not the same thing. So, yeah.
And that's not it focused. I read in one of my articles that like biological evolution is what like is that Cameron's answer, but scientists do want to know how life started, but that's just not part of it. Yeah, it's just a
And
Got it.
I think I have it written later in here, maybe. Oh, yeah. Okay, so chemical evolution is how life started. And if you think about that, like you thought about biological means life, evolution. Well, chemical evolution, you're going to be thinking about, like genetic
Combinations of
makeup,
genes.
genes, and all that kind of stuff. So that'll more explain. It's just not the same thing. Is the best answer I can give you, and
Gotcha.
it's the best answer. Is that the best answer you got for
Yeah.
what I was wrong? Yeah. Okay, so Paz's answer says, I think it includes both how life started and how it changed after it started. And this one's pretty obvious. Why is this one not right?
Well, because now that we've learned what bioevolution is, we know that it's not including the start of life like we just talked about.
Yep.
But the other half of it is right.
Yeah, right. I literally have written, this answer is wrong simply because it includes how life started. And that's not part of biological evolution. So,
I have some more questions that we can ask at the end. if you
Okay.
want.
let me ask
Y'all are at 12 minutes, just so you know, if you feel.
looking back at the probe and the information that you've learned and you now know, do you guys have an understanding of why you think Cameron's answer is correct? And remember, his answer is, I think it mainly explains how life changed after it started.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I actually know what bioevolution
And you see, because
Right.
I know you were talking about, well, you think that it would include how life started. Do you see now how it
Yeah,
not include that?
because it's how it changes over time and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. You have more questions?
Yeah. Okay, so does a single organism adapt on its own?
No,
Yeah.
Because
has
it-
to happen.
over
Over
time
time.
and like reproduction and yeah.
And okay,
With the habitat, like.
this one's kind of like one that you'll have to think about a little bit. Can humans negatively impact ecosystems even though organism species can adapt?
Yeah. Yeah. Because like I was just thinking about like polar bears.
Uh-huh.
Like their habitat is like melting away
Yeah.
and like they're losing all their food sources.
Yeah, and they
And,
can't
like-
adapt fast enough.
Right,
Yeah.
to survive. So so
Right.
sad.
That's what I was thinking too. Okay, so in natural selection, people often think survival of the fittest. What does this mean? Does it
The
mean
one-
the strongest, the fastest, the largest, the like courageous?
Well, if all of those factors contribute to being the best fit to the environment, then yes. But if being slow is better fit to the environment, then they'll survive better than someone that is fast.
So what you're saying is it just depends on the different adaptations.
Yeah.
Yes.
So fittest in different organisms can mean a completely different. Is that what you guys
Yeah.
are?
Yeah.
getting at?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so like it has to be the most fit for the environment that it's in and
Right.
for what it's supposed to do. Yeah. And for my last question, I have what sort of traits are adaptations and what sorts are not? There's not really a wrong or right answer, but it's just a discussion question. What do you think?
Adaptations. Well, an adaptation could be like a bird like getting a longer beak over time because it needs to like dig in a hole or something. And something that's not an adaptation. Yeah. I don't know how to explain that. Because
What are some things?
Oh, I have an example in mind.